So we're going to start. We cannot wait for them again. We are starting now. And this is Production Management 2. Being Production Management 2. And this is also Study Section 1. At the end of this study section, you should be able to define material requirement planning. And that material requirement planning is what we also describe as MRP. You should be able to state the objective of MRP, which is material requirement planning. We should be able to highlight the characteristics of MRP. We should also be able to state the advantages of MRP. Also, we are going to look at MRP processes. We are going to look at uses of bill of material, output report, classes of MRP users through companies. We are going to look at type of firms through organization that MRP material requirement planning can be applied. Then lastly, we are going to look at the nature of demand. These are what we are expected to know and take note at the end of the class. Then we'll move on straight to what we refer to as material requirement planning. When you talk about material requirement planning, it's a computerized base production system for managing dependent demand inventory, scheduling replacement order, and meeting demand for end item as given in the master production schedule. It could also be defined, especially in a manufacturing setting, where the demand of many of the components and subassembly depend on the demand of items that faces external demand. So what are we saying in essence? That material requirement planning is a computer-based production system of managing a dependent demand inventory. That is, it's a computerized system that enables you to manage the demand of a product, taking into cognizance the replenishing schedule order. And we said this type of process is basically peculiar in a manufacturing system. And that is the definition of material requirement planning. The next thing we need to look at, what are the objectives or functions of material requirement planning? We have been made to know that the material requirement planning, MRP, or in some cases, it is called MRP1. It is a computerized based system that is used to predict the demand for a dependent product, taking into cognizance of how the product will be replenished or how the replenished order will be placed. You have to take note, a replenished order is that order that is made in order to get back the stock that has been taken out of the store. And that is what we call a replenishment system. Now, what are the objectives or functions of MRP? What are the objectives or functions of MRP? Number one, we said it ensures availability of materials, components, and products for plant production and customer delivery. That is the first characteristics of MRP, the first objectives of MRP, because the MRP is a process that is used to ensure that you do not run out of stock. It is a process that is designed for you not to run out of stock, using a computer to determine when you need to make demand for those products that are no longer in the factory. And that is why we say number one, objectives or function of the MRP is to ensure the availability of materials, components, and products for plant production and for customer delivery. Number two, it helps to maintain the lowest possible level of inventory. Because when you have proper material requirement planning, you are using a computer-based system to determine the flow of your stock, to determine the flow of your goods. And the computer can signify or give you a sign when your product has reached the minimum level or when it has reached the reorder level. And what is the reorder level? The reorder level is the lowest level for which the stock of a firm is reached, which another order needs to be placed. So with the use of material requirement planning, you'll be able to maintain the lowest possible level of inventory. And when you operate and you maintain the lowest level of inventory, you are not going to be having excess stock in your warehouse, but thereby tying down your capital. You'll be able to balance the level of stock in your warehouse. So we said one of the function or objective of material requirement planning is to maintain the lowest possible level of inventory. And when you are able to maintain the lowest possible level of inventory, you are maintaining a system where you are not going to run out of stock, and at the same time, you are holding a stock that can sustain you before stocks are reordered. Number three is that it plans manufacturing activities. The material requirement planning plan manufacturing activities because it helps you to know the reorder level. And because you are able to control your reorder level, you are able to control the flow of your goods, you'll be able to plan those materials that are needed in manufacturing activities. So that is why we say that another objective and function of material requirement planning, it helps the manufacturing activities in delivery schedule and purchasing activities. It also helps to improve customer service by meeting delivery schedule. It also helps to improve customer service by meeting delivery schedule. Number five, it helps to reduce inventory cost by reducing inventory level. It helps to reduce inventory cost by reducing inventory level. Because when you can maintain the minimum level of stock, you can hold the minimum level of stock and you are not holding excess stock. The cost of holding the stock will be reduced. And when the cost of holding your stock is reduced, you are reducing the cost of holding stock. And this is one of the functions or the objective of material requirement planning. It helps to improve plant operating efficiency. It helps to improve plant operating efficiency. It will be bad that you have plants and there are no materials to produce. In other words, the machine will be idle. But where we operate a material requirement planning, there will always be stock available for production because the material requirement planning will enable us to control the level of stock and tell us when we have the minimum level of stock. And with this knowledge, we'll be able to apply or reorder products on time so that we do not run out of stock that will be used in carrying out productive activities. Thereby, the machine will have opportunity of working. Because if we run out of stock and there are no raw materials to carry out productive activities, most of the machines that are meant to work, they will be left idle. But because of material requirement planning, they are helped to plan, they are helped use of computer to plan the flow of stock, to plan the flow of inventory, always ensure the availability of raw materials. And this availability of raw materials are available for the machine to carry out productive activities and all time. And this will help to forestall the idleness nature of the machine. In other words, the machine will be able to work at efficient capacity. We now move on to characteristics of material requirement planning. The next one we are looking at are the characteristics of material requirement planning. Here, we are able to state 3 characteristics of material requirement planning. Under this case, we are able to mention 3 characteristics. We should also take note that characteristics can be referred to as features of material requirement planning. We said number 1, it helps to plan. It plans by considering capacity, material, transportation, and other non-financial constraints for a medium to long time period. That is one of the characteristics that the material requirement planning helps us to do. Because the material requirement planning, it helps you to plan the materials that are required to carry out productive activities. It takes into cognizance the capacity of the warehouse, the materials that are needed, the transportation of the material from the point where they are needed to the factory. It could be used to plan both the medium and the long time in productive activities. Number 2, it helps offset replenishment order. It helps offset replenishment order, purchase order, or production schedule relative to date when replenishment is needed. What are we talking about? If you operate an efficient material requirement planning, you are operating a computer-based system where the movement of your goods are built into the computer. It shows how the goods are going out and how the goods are coming in. And it also plans that if there is a minimum level of stock, that the computer should indicate or give you a sign. With this process, you will be able to plan the period for which you order for goods, and it will move in a smooth way. But when there is no computerized system of monitoring the movement of goods in and out of the warehouse, you may run out of idea when a particular product has attained the minimum level or when it has gone out of stock. But where you operate the material requirement planning, a computerized based system of the movement of goods, it will help to solve the problem of replenishment. That is, you'll be able to replenish or get back what you have sold without any problem, taking into cognizance the lead time. Because the lead time is the time for which you actually order for a product and the time when it is actually supplied. So if you practice the material requirement planning, a computerized based system to treat an independent demand that is related, treat a dependent demand that is related to other products, you will be able to make your purchase order at the appropriate times and goods will be supplied into the factory without necessarily running out of stock. It will also help you in a situation where you'll be able to maintain the minimum level of stock without unnecessarily stocking your warehouse with excess goods, thereby tying down the capital that would have been used in carrying out other productive activities. And number 3 characteristic is profit-based supply-demand balancing. What are we talking about here? That when you practice an effective MRP system, which is material requirement planning, you will be able to make profit because you'll be able to supply goods and take note of the demand, and you'll be able to reconcile your demand and supply and have a balanced goods in such a way that you will not be supplying more than what you want you will not be demanding more than what you want, and you also be able to meet customer demand with respect to your supply and make the best of profit, because you are able to control the movement of goods within your warehouse or within the store. For example, if you go to modern day supermarket, that is when you want to buy things, they scan the product. They bring out a product and put a scanning machine. Now they have programmed that system that thing you scan is going to deduct from the existing stock of that particular product. So maybe it is Omo. They scan 30 Omo today, and the total Omo in that store is 40. And they said the reorder level into that store is 6. That is, as soon as the product is 6, that means the owner of the supermarket need to place order on Omo. And where will he get the figure? He will get it from the computer. That people have demanded for this Omo, and I need to buy another set of Omo. But where that computer is not in place, and he has not programmed the computer to that effect, he may run out of that stock. So when I say that MRP being a computer-based system that helps to manage the production, the movement of materials that experiences a dependent demand, you'll be able to balance your demand and supply and maintain a minimum stock without necessarily running out of stock. And this will help you to maximize the profit of the business. We now look at advantages of MRP. And we've told you that MRP is a system that is adopted to manage proper flow of goods in such a manner that you'll be able to maintain the minimum level of stock, taking into cognizance the dependent demand for the product. So what are the advantages that we can derive when we adopt the MRP process, the computerized process of managing stock in the organization? Now, number one, ability to price more competitively, because the price for which you bought the product, the price of which you bought the product will have been computed in the system, and the price you are going to sell the product will also be considered in order for you to make better price strategy. Because if you are not operating that machine and you want to start determining the price manually, it could be a problem. But because you are operating a material requirement planning, as soon as the material comes in, you key the amount you bought in, which is the cost price, you have keyed into it, and you say, oh, 20% markup. And once you put it a 20% markup, the price of that product will automatically be built into the system. So the moment the product is brought out by scanning, it will just bring out the price. So it helps to bring a competitive price strategy by adopting an MRP system. Number two, reduce sales prices. Reduce sales prices. It is possible that since you have adopted an effective planning system, you could, on your own, instead of saying, oh, a markup of 20%, you could manually input the prices that will give you competitive advantage over other firms in the industry. That you can reduce price because you are able to plan your product very well. You know those products that is purchased at a lower price, because at times you could operate what is called FIFO, LIFO, NIFO. And what is FIFO? First in, first out. In a situation where we face volatility in the price of product in the market, maybe last week you went to market and bought a product for 100 naira and you are selling it for 120. And today you went to market and bought the same product for 120. You don't want to sell for 120 because you want to make profit. But if you are operating a FIFO method, what is FIFO? First in, first out. The one you bought for 100, you may still want to sell it for 120. In that case, you may be selling at a reduced price, even when the price is high, because you have a proper price control system that has been adopted using a computer-based system of a dependent demand. Number three, help to reduce inventory. Because you operate a computer-based system that when you scan a product and that product is going out, it will automatically reduce from the level of stock. You'll be able to ascertain the minimum level of stock that every product is, which will guide against a situation where excess stock will be kept in the warehouse, or where excess stock will be kept and it can lead to spoilage. That is, the operation of MRP will help to reduce the level of inventory and maintaining a reasonable minimum inventory level. The next one is better customer service. Better customer service in the sense that since you are aware of all the products that are in the store, you'll be able to meet the demand of your customer at every point in time, because the system will guide you on the products that are available and the products that are not available and the product that has reduced, and you'll be able to meet the demand of the customer because of the computer-based system that the system has provided when you adopt the material requirement planning system. So you'll be able to satisfy your customer. Anything that your customer wants, you'll be able to get it for them, because you are being guided by the computer that helps to monitor the availability of goods available in the store or in the warehouse. Better response to market demand. It is the same thing to you are satisfying the customer, because the customer could be referred to as the market, because you have a lot of stock and you know the one you purchase at a lower price, you know the one you purchase at a medium price, you can determine the price for which you will sell the product. You'll be able to respond to the market demand in relation to price, in relation to the quantity that is needed, because you have a perfect control of the quantity of products available and the price for which those products are being stored in the warehouse. Then the next one is ability to change the master schedule. The master schedule shows a lot of input into the system, because the master schedule shows a lot of input into the production system. If you have a material requirement planning, you'll be able to adjust some of this schedule in order to suit the purpose that you want. Reduce setup and tear down cost. And what is setup cost and tear down cost? We're talking about tear down cost is called depreciation cost. Setup cost is the capital that is needed to bring in some things. Once you have an effective material requirement planning, where you are able to plan for the raw materials, for the materials that are needed in the manufacturing sector in order to achieve your desired level of output, you will ensure efficient use of the machine. Because you ensure efficient use of the machine, you'll be able to reduce the setup cost, and you'll also be able to reduce the tear down cost. And the tear down cost here is the level of depreciation. In that case, the machine will be put to effective use. And that is what is linked to number 8, reduce idle time. Idle time will be reduced because machines are working. You have planned your inventory, stock available, sales people are working, marketing are working, everybody is working, because the organization has not run out of stock, because you are able to plan your stock. It aids capacity planning. And what is capacity planning? Is the ability to use the existing other machine capacity, space capacity, factory capacity in order to achieve the optimal level of output. That when you adopt the material requirement planning, which is a computerized system of planning a dependent demand that has end user schedule, you'll be able to plan the capacity for which your plant will be able to work, or for which your factory will be able to be put to use. Then we now look at MRP processes. When you look at MRP processes is divided into 3. MRP processes is divided into 3. Number 1, MRP input. And that is what you have on this left-hand side. MRP input. At the middle, you have what is called MRP processing. Then at the right-hand side, you have the MRP output. That is, the MRP processes are divided into 3. The MRP input, the MRP processing, and the MRP output. When you talk about the MRP input has to do with the following: the master schedule. The master schedule. It has to do with bill of material. Then it has to do with inventory record. The master schedule. Now, let's go front a bit. You will now notice what is called a master schedule. No, let's go back. You look at a master schedule. A master schedule is a document, is a system that shows all that is required in order to produce a particular product. Because I told you that MRP processes are divided into three: the MRP input, the MRP processing, the MRP output. Under the MRP input, you have the master schedule. The master schedule shows all the processes, all the steps that are required in order to achieve a given level of output. While the bill of material is the cost of material that is required in order to achieve that level of output. The bill of material is the cost, the amount that is required to achieve that level of output. While inventory records are the amount of stock that are needed in order to achieve that level of output. All of these three are what falls under the master schedule, the MRP input, which are master schedule, bill of material, and inventory record. And all of these things serve as an input into the computer system, which is the MRP processes. In other words, when you are practicing MRP, you put your master schedule into the computer, you put the bill of your material into the computer, you put your inventory record into the computer. In that case now, you will now see various levels of output. It will not process it. When it is processed, you now have a primary report. It tells you the changes between the actual and the expected. It tells you the order release, what product has been released, what product is left. It tells you the plan order schedule. What is the original plan order schedule? How many products are you expecting? How many have you sent out? Then it will also give you the secondary report. That is exception order. That is, there are some order which does not conform with this order. Maybe what you have programmed is not within this. That is, it becomes abnormal. You now have what is called exception report. It now gives you that, oh, you are expecting to bring in 40, export 30. Now you have brought in 40, you are given out 39. It gives you an exceptional report so that you'll be able to respond to it. It gives you a planning report that maybe what you have actually planned is what is actually in existence. And from this exceptional report and the planning report, you'll be able to see the performance control report. And this performance control will tell you the level of exceptional report and the level of the planning report. And in that case, you now have inventory transaction. What are the outcomes in the inventory? And all of these steps that we have just explained is what we refer to as MRP processes. Now we move on to input of a standard material requirement planning. You know, I did mention to you that the material requirement processes has 3 stages. I did mention to you earlier that the material requirement planning processes has 3 stages. I said we have the input stage, we have the processing stage, and we have the output stage. And under the input stage, we told you that we have what is called the master production schedule. And that is one of them, the master production schedule, the bill of material. This is a bill of material. Then you have production cycle, the time it takes to start a product and to finish it. You have a supply lead time. All of them is what we refer to as input material requirement planning. Just as I've said here earlier, that we have said earlier that material requirement planning has 3 processes or 3 stages. We have the input, the MRP input process, the MRP processing, the MRP output. And this MRP input processes, it comprises of. So this input now is what is coming as an heading, that the material input programming, that is for you to plan your input. You have these 4 components in your input. The master production schedule, which shows the whole plan of what you are going to produce, the bill of material, the amount of money required, the production life cycle, the time it takes for you to commence a product and for which the product is completed. Then the supply lead time is the time for which you order for a product and the time for which it is actually supplied. So this component and this diagram is what we refer to as input to a standard material requirement planning. That in order for you to have an input into the system of a material requirement planning, you should consider your master production schedule, you should consider the bills of material, you should consider the lead time, you should consider production cycle time. And what is production cycle time? It is the time that is taken to commence the production of a product and the time it takes to actually complete that product. Then the next aspect that we are going to look into now, is the classes of MRP users. The next aspect we are looking into now is the classes of MRP users. And now we are actually divided the classes into 4. We have the category A, we have the category B, we have the category C, and we have the category D. The category A is the category where the MRP is fully implemented. Just take note of that. The category A is the stage where the MRP, which is the material requirement planning, is fully implemented in an organization, putting in all the various components that are required in order to practice MRP processes. So we refer to that as category A organization, an organization that practices in full implementation the material requirement planning. We have category B. Category B is a company, it's a user that does not practice material requirement planning in totality, but they practice it partially. They put some of those things in the system, some of those things are not in the system. You go to some supermarket, some products can be scanned, some products cannot be scanned. But when it's on supermarket, all products, including toothpick, can be scanned. So category A is a type of company, is a class of company that practices MRP in totality. That is, they follow all the schedule, all the input, the processing, and the output of material requirement planning. And we have category B, those organizations or those companies that do not fully implement material requirement planning. Then we talk about category C. This represents a classical material requirement planning approach in which the system confers to management of inventory. In the case of category C, they only take care of inventory as part of their own. They do not consider others, but only their goods are programmed into the MRP, the computer-based system. Other aspects of the organization, they are not interested in it. Then category D, this represents a data processing application of MRP system for keeping track of data rather than decision making. This category D organization only takes data of event that has occurred and they use the data to analyze, just like the research and development unit. But they are not fully interested in full implementation of the material requirement planning computer-based system in the proper control of their stock as a method of ensuring the minimum stock level and the availability of products. We'll now move on to look at some types of companies or organizations where MRP is applied. We look at some types of company where MRP is applied. Now, you look at the first one, assembly to stock. Assembly to stock. This type of company only assemble products. When they assemble the product, they can now sell, and that will become their product. You see people that goes to China or travel abroad, they import the parts of bicycle. They import the parts of bicycle, various parts of bicycle. They now come back to Nigeria. They now assemble it together and they say it is their product. In that case, they assemble to stock. So it's a type of company that falls under MRP, where they get various components of a particular product and they put those various components together to become a product. And they will now say that is their product. That is their product does not mean they are the one that produces the product, but rather they got various components of that product and they assemble them together. There was a time in Nigeria, they also have what is called Peugeot assembly plant, maybe around Volks in Nigeria. They will bring in various parts of those products and assemble to sell. That is what we call assemble to stock in the material requirement planning process. So those firms only import various components of products, assemble them together, and they will be able to sell it. Expected benefit, we say when you apply MRP in this case, the expected benefit is very high because you'll be able to ascertain the total component of products that has been imported and the likely unit of your stock that will be achieved. Then we have what is called fabricate to stock. When you talk about fabricate to stock, this is when you convert raw materials into finished goods before it becomes your stock. In this case, those making bricks, like you see some people making bricks, they will now fabricate the bricks. They will go and buy sand, they will buy cement, they will look for water, they will now merge them together, they will now fabricate it, and they now have what is called bricks. Now, in that case, they manufacture the product by bringing in some raw materials together. In that case, it is very difficult for you to ascertain the total number of products. That is why some people will say, oh, I mold 10 blocks from one bag of cement. What is the quantity of sand? What is the quantity of water? So when you fabricate to stock, you now fabricate your items. Say items are manufactured by the manufacturer rather than to assemble. And those things they manufacture serve as their product. Now, the application of MRP in this case will be relatively low. Then assemble to order. Assemble to order. A final assemble is made from a standard opinion rather than a customized opinion. Assemble to order means when a product has been assembled already, then order is placed on it. You'll be able to get such a product. The applicability is very high. Fabricate to order. This is when you produce before order is placed. Manufacture to order is synonymous to fabricating to order. While processing, then you say this is an industry that is foundry such as plastic, specializing. They are involved in various processes of products, converting of one raw materials into finished goods. So these are types of firms where MRP can be applied. Then we'll talk about the nature of demand. When you talk about nature of demand, we said there are two types of demand under the MRP processes. Under the MRP processes, there are two types of demand. We have what is called the independent demand, and we have what is called the dependent demand. Under the MRP processes, we have what is called the independent demand, and we have what is called the dependent demand. The dependent demand are these demands are related to the production of other products, and thus are usually MRP items. While independent demand items are not related to the demand for any product. So the master production schedule items are independent demand items. Once the independent demand is known, the dependent demand can be determined. And we have been able to show the diagram of an independent demand, also of a dependent demand, which has to depend on various components as contained in the circle below. Thank you very much. That is the end of studies section 1. Question, contributions. Then we evaluate our self-assignments. Any question? We have to be fast so that I will make the recorded video available so that with the PowerPoint for you to restudy and look at again in case you may want to ask questions. Any question? Any question? Well, in the absence of any question, we'll meet again in the next class. I will make it available to the class governor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.